Hello everyone, Resonance here, and today I have another expert game for you guys as part of my new Break the Meta series for Age of Empires 2. Throughout this series, I will be showcasing a wide variety of creative and situational strategies while evaluating how they might stack up in the current metagame. We've all seen our fair share of galley rushes and knights, so today it is time for something completely different. It's time for some mass war wagons. In this expert match, DauT will be playing against Chris in a 1v1 on the map Arabia. In the top right corner of the map, we have DauT, aka CSI Vegeta, playing as the Red Koreans. And on the far left-hand side of the map, we have Chris, aka Infrared Flame, playing as the Blue Huns. Now, before we begin, I do have to take a brief moment to thank Cision and the rest of the AOC Box team for their help in making this series possible. A few months ago, Cision kindly provided me with the full replay archives from his old AOC Box website. The site is no longer being updated though, and Cision is currently moving the information and archives to his new ForgottenEmpires.net website. AOC Box was a vast collection of fun and Expert Aoe2 replays that feature many situations where standard build orders are not always ideal. And so, I want to break the meta series to highlight these matches where outside-of-the-box thinking was the secret to success, and I can't really think of a better place to start than with the ubiquitous 1v1 on Arabia versus the Huns. Now, to give you all a little bit of context on this strategy, essentially, our friend CSI Vegeta over here, who I'll be referring to as DauT, his more common name, is going to be defeating the Huns on Arabia with war wagons. That's right, war wagons, the unique unit that we really don't see that much of, and we don't really see too much of the Koreans either in competitive play, and I will go over that a little bit in a moment, but in order to understand what is weak about the Koreans per se, we need to understand what makes the Huns so strong. At least on the map Arabia, because when it comes to like the super duper late game, obviously the Koreans are insanely strong. They do have, elite war wagons, siege onagers, all sorts of really powerful late game units, lots of gunpowder that Huns don't have. But when you're playing on a map like Arabia, which is super duper open, right, it's very hard to wall on a map like this, the early game can be everything. The Huns happen to have a very, very powerful early game eco bonus, and that's basically what sets them apart from the competition. The Huns happen to not have to be able to build houses. Like, they start with 100 less wood, and then all their houses, like, they don't have to build them anymore. And that saves up a ton of wood over time. And not only that, their cavalry archers cost a lot less. And if you have to choose between making cavalry archers or crossbowmen, most of the time you pick cav archers, except they're so expensive. The Huns, though, are really able to actually mass them up quite easily since they are super duper cheap. Now, what exactly makes this match different? Like, why would the Koreans be a good idea here? How could this possibly work? Because the Koreans, they only get a faster stone mining bonus, which frankly, like, that really doesn't matter in the early game that much, unless you're going for a tower rush or something like that. The Huns are inevitably going to pull far ahead in the early game. So, if you're the Koreans in this matchup, what do? Well, you could try and match your opponent. You could try and mirror him, and in this case, we can expect that Chris over here is going to be probably going for some sort of early pressure. He might try some archers, scouts. I expect him to go for scouts, though. Usually you see scouts in a 1v1 Arabia, especially as the Huns. You'll be able to get to the feudal age quite quickly. Put like almost everything on food and wood. He'll rush with scouts and then try and pressure his opponent, then maybe transition into either cav archers or knights. And in this case, you could totally mirror your opponent as the Koreans. I mean, you could certainly go for your own scout rush, your own early aggression, whatever you feel like doing. Try and mirror him, but most of the time, I think that's kind of silly business here. And this is why I really, really like this replay, and I'm showing it off here, because DauT knows what's up. Why mirror your opponent when your opponent has a natural advantage? And in this case, he does. The Huns are inevitably going to pull ahead in the early game due to the fact that they don't have to build houses, so the Koreans are just always going to be a little bit behind. But where are the Korean strengths? Their amazing tech tree and their unit variety compared to the Huns. The Huns only get cavalry units, basically. They don't get that much in the realm of late-game variety. They don't have access to gunpowder units, for example. Their siege weapon line sucks. They get siege rams, but they don't get heavy scorpions. They don't get onagers. No siege onagers, no gunpowder, no champions, nothing, no arbalists. It's rather unfortunate. Whereas the Koreans definitely do have the late game in the bag. I mean, if you've played enough Age of Empires 2 online, you guys have played any Black Forest, you're probably aware of the power of the Koreans in the late game with their siege onagers. It's nothing to mess with, and the mass war wagons as well, super duper scary. So what's his plan? Not gonna match him, I'll tell you. The plan is here. Go full turtle mode. And this is why this strategy works in this specific situation, because if you look at the way the map is laid out, it's actually kind of easy to wall for a chain. Sometimes, like when you're choosing your strategy, it's really important that you like look at the map, and sometimes the map will actually come up in a way where you can actually, you know, fully stone wall on Arabia. Sometimes Arabia plays as if it's almost Mongolia in this case, and we can kind of see the puzzle fitting together here. This area already closed off. You can just wall here, use the terrain to help him complete his wall. Let's see, it looks like Chris will indeed scout this, our blue Huns player. But yeah, you can just wall all these little areas off, and he's basically good to go. Assuming that he can stonewall in time, and we see that, you know, he's feuding at a pretty aggressive time, right? The 21 population, well, 22 pop if you include the scout, that's a relatively early feudal age. That's usually reserved for rushing in this case. He's trying to get to the feudal age early so he can just start stonewalling up real hard right now. Why? Because he knows that the scouts are coming, and he has to be there first before the scouts actually arrive. The barracks is coming down here from Chris, and he is going to probably go for scouts or archers or something like that, and assuming that our good friend DauT over here is ready in time, and oh, he does get the scout, nicely done. Super duper close on that one. He's gonna build a mining camp right now. Yeah, he's gonna full stone wall up, boys. That's right. This doesn't work all the time, but when you look at the map, this is such a good idea. Not only would he be at a disadvantage if he tried to, you know, match Chris, the blue Huns player, you know, unit for unit, right? You know, the Koreans don't even get bloodlines, so it can be really tricky to compete, you know, with the knights and the crossbows versus cav archers and the scouts. It's just, you're gonna be far behind. But the way that this map is set up and the way the Civ matchup is going, like this is the way to go. And we never see this, and that's why I'm showing off this replay, because it's super duper cool. This kind of thing is unheard of, really. You know, the Koreans being able to take on the Huns on Arabia is insane. It's insane, but the way that this setup is going, it's just incredibly well done on DauT's part. He will be able to just close off everything in time. The scouts are indeed on the way here from Chris. He is going to, yeah, make a stable right now and make a couple of scouts, presumably. He has the archer range here, which signifies to me that he's, you know, not thinking of lingering too long in the feudal age. He's trying to be able to get up to the castle age relatively soon, throw in some archers as well. So he's gonna be pretty aggressive here. Now, obviously, you know, it makes sense to only go for one stable because scouts are so expensive, right? They cost 80 food each, and, you know, if you're constantly pumping out scouts, you'll never be able to get to the castle age, so by putting down an archery range right now, he is allowing himself to save up his food. Archers don't cost food, they cost wood and gold, so he'll just go for the double range, yeah, transition to archers after poking with scouts initially. One thing that I think is really funny here, though, is that Chris has made a spearman from his barracks, anticipating scouts from his opponent. He's thinking that DauT's gonna mirror him, which is honestly, like, expected, right? Like, no one expects this full Stonewall turtle into war wagons. That's crazy. So he built the spearman, and he put it right here next to the wood line so that when the scouts come and go try and raid his economy, the spearman will be able to repel it quite easily. Looks like the scout here from DauT is gonna come forward. Our Red Koreans player, he is gonna scout the double archery range and the stable. The scouts are gonna be coming out. But the stone wall should be up in time, actually. The cool thing that he did here is he started building each of these little segments of walls. He got like a little bit of HP on each of them so the scout could not go in. And now everything is getting completely messed up here as Chris has no idea what's going on. His opponent has fully stone-walled, and what's going on the inside of these walls, no one knows. And when I saw this replay initially, I was blown away, because like the first thing that came to my mind was, he's still mining stone. He's still mining stone, like he's already stonewalled up and he still has 3 on stone. Either this dude is planning something crazy or, I don't know. Having this many villagers on stone right now makes me think that he's going to use that stone for something, and he's not. This is a lot more stone than you would need if you were going for like a full-on boom, but he basically can boom in this case. You can just put down like a ton of town centers, and since he has all these villagers on stone, he'll be able to build a castle in the reasonable future, and this early aggression is just completely repelled by all these stone walls, just the way the map is set up. You always have to look at the map, your Civ matchups, and all sorts of things to decide if stuff like this is going to work, because it's certainly not going to work every time, but that's the mark of a really good player. A really good player like DauT can look at a situation like this and analyze it and understand that playing standard in this case is not the way to go. These forward scouts from Chris aren't going to do anything. He cannot get through this fortress of walls and houses. He's extremely well defended, and If this map was a lot more open, it wouldn't have been possible to stone wall, or it would have been incredibly inefficient. But the way the map is set up, not only can he stonewall his entire base, but he also has a ton of resources and room to build in here too. He's not like cramped into a corner. He has his full gold mine, he has a bunch of wood, and he has both stone mines inside these walls, which is going to be critical as he's going to need a lot of stone for this strategy. And you know, full stonewalling on Arabia isn't really that common in a 1v1. Generally, it really depends on how the map is going, and you know, this level of greed can pay off in this case only because he knows his opponent committed so hard to the early aggression that he is actually going to be kind of slow up to the castle age. So we see here that DauT is already advancing to the castle age at 17 minutes in, so he'll be up soon. And we look at our opponent. I mean, the smart thing here from Chris, obviously, is that he's also taking a look at the situation. Yes, he's not getting in. He stopped making military units a long time ago, and you know, he never really committed too hard into the scouts. Like he only made like 4 of them or something like that before he moved on to archers because he didn't want to commit too hard. Once he saw the stonewalls coming up, he stopped military production. Now he's trying to shift and adjust his economy a little bit so that he can go up to the castle age. And in the meantime, we got this ticking time bomb over here. Impenetrable fortress. No one can get in here because the walls are up in a great position over here, and he's going to have to get to the castle age to get through these. This type of thing can sometimes work because you can't really get through stone walls without like battering rams or mangonels, which are only available in the castle age. So when the stars align like they do in this situation, and your opponent here, you know, being the Huns, right, of course he's going to try and be the aggressor. I mean, you're the Koreans, right? Like, what are you going to do about it? Your units you'll probably just be behind in the early game, right? So this should, in theory, be a free win for Chris. Why would he not, you know, pressure early on with scouts and archers? Super standard, right? And since it's pretty obvious that he would do that, I mean, DauT here is just going to, you know, read this match quite nicely, stonewall up. And since his opponent committed so hard for the early aggression, like mind games right here, right? He's stuck in the feudal age for much longer. We gotta go up to the castle age first, and these guys are never gonna get in and do anything. Sure, map control in favor of Chris, but all the important resources are inside these walls. Now, once the gold starts to run out, I mean, he does still have one inside here, and I mean, while this one's kind of close to the wall, I mean, a castle could basically keep everybody safe. So, DauT here, the Red Koreans player. Up to the castle age. Here comes the town centers, guys. This is my kind of strategy. Full-on farming simulator. First town center coming down. Second town center coming down. Now, this town center placement is a little bit risky, obviously, as you know, some crossbowmen or cavalry archers can poke it over the wall, but it doesn't matter. He wants to secure this stone mine. Because look, we know something's up. DauT's still mining stone. Even though he's putting down 2 TCs, he's got 300 stone right here. He wants that castle. He wants that castle, and he wants a third town center. I haven't actually watched the entire replay the entire way through, by the way, so I don't actually know exactly what happens beyond this point. But yes, he's going to stonewall up here, put down all these town centers, and just start booming like crazy, because he has a short window here where his opponent can't do anything. He has bought himself enough time that basically Chris, the Blue Huns, can't do anything in this situation. He is not up to the castle age yet. I mean, he's almost there. He's like 90% of the way there, but he can't do anything in the meantime. And this means that DauT gets to just put down a bunch of town centers and get a huge economy lead because he got to the castle age first. Now, the good news here, though, is that Chris, what he's done is that he sees that, again, you know, the stone walls are here. He knows he can't put on any pressure right now. Getting through these walls will take a little bit. So he's just going to put down a TC immediately and not go, like, super duper all in on the aggression because he's already a little bit behind and he knows he needs to try and keep up. He might even put down another TC here. But I expect to see a siege workshop put down relatively soon, but it's not going to come out just yet. And that means that DauT has plenty of time. The siege workshop, you know, will only come down, you know, a couple of minutes after castle age begins. A second TC coming down, a third TC. So we get some huge booming going on here, and a monastery. So, ooh, I wonder if he's going to pick up all the relics because the map control is so far in his favor. Or if he's just going to go throw some monks in with mangonels, because monks and mangonels are just such a great combination here, as the monks will be able to convert knights, and knights are so good against mangonels because mangonels have minimum range. They can't shoot at the melee knights. So everybody's booming up here a little bit, but this definitely does favor DauT because he got to the castle age first. And let's talk a little bit about the war wagon unit, as it is going to start coming out in a little bit after the booming begins. Why, as well, is this a good idea? Well, let's think about it this way. What's his opponent going to do? Probably cavalry archers, right? Like, it's pretty standard. And notice, by the way, that Chris did skip out on fletching. He didn't get fletching earlier because he needs that food and gold to get to the castle to try and catch up with his opponent. Because in the super duper late game, I mean, like, the Huns are not favored in this case. The Huns have basically only cavalry units at their disposal. Like, they get good cavalry archers, they get good paladins. That's basically it, and, like, siege rams. So, it's really, really easy for, you know, the Koreans to deal with them. You just get, like, out a bunch of halberdiers. You get out a bunch of halberdiers. I mean, like, Mamluks, you know, obviously tear through this if you're the Saracens. So, you know, you just build some halbs, some, you know, war wagons and whatnot. I mean, really, it's just so hard for the Huns player to deal with. They have trash units, they have cavalry units, and they have siege rams, which is just frankly not good enough. These walls are not going to go down anytime soon. I do see a forward siege workshop here, and let's see if DauT has any vision of that. He does not. So castle's going down. Like I said, why war wagons, right? Like, that's insane. Have you seen how much war wagons costs? That's ridiculous. War wagons are like, you know, a chunk of college tuition every single time you plop one out. It's insane. But they're good in this situation because cavalry archers, right? If we look at the stats of the war wagon, as it will come out at some point this year, I do believe. The war wagon is coming eventually, guys. Coming soon to a theater near you. War wagons have very, very high pierce armor. They're incredibly tanky. Incredibly tanky. So, with all these range units... Oh, here it comes, guys. War wagon hype. Oh, 40%, 50%, 60%. It's coming. It's coming. Boom! Take a look at this. 3 pierce armor. That's really good. And 150 HP. These things are monsters. They're almost like ranged war elephants in a bizarre sort of way. Obviously, they don't pack as much of a punch, but... You know, they're very, very tanky, they hit quite hard, and they're extremely good against ranged units. And his opponent went for cavalry archers. It makes sense. Cavalry archers in this case is also a good idea as opposed to knights. Why? Because, you know, Chris is going for the full-on boom of his own. He's put down a million town centers, and he needs all that food to create villagers, and he needs food for upgrades as well. And to eventually get to the Imperial Age. So, you know, going for cavalry archers here definitely is a lot nicer on his economy, so it makes sense. Also, cavalry archers is just so good to mass up, and I guess he expected his opponent to go for crossbows or something like that, but not this behemoth over here. War wagons don't care at all about your ranged attacks, and, well, basically this means that since Chris can't really go into knights because he needs all that food to go sustain his own economy, then, yeah, these war wagons are gonna be insane. I mean, look how much food Chris has right now. Chris has like 100 food floating, because he has to boom super duper hard. He won't have time to transition into knights. And we also saw the double archer range as well. Early on, remember that DauT sent his scout over, he saw the double archer range. So again, it also signifies that cavalry archers are the more efficient choice in this situation. You can't go for knights because he would have to build another stable and it would take forever, and he knows the stone walls are here, whereas the cavalry archers can also pressure on the other side of these walls. DauT has set himself up in a situation which kind of forces his opponent to go for cavalry archers, and then the war wagons get to clean them up. Second castle going down. Again, he's thinking of protecting the second stone mine, which is pretty sick. The battering ram, though, is going to worm its way into the walls. These walls will go down, I think, and I do believe that... Okay, here's the test of time, because this strategy is super slow, super greedy, incredibly innovative. I love it. He's pulling so much off the line here. Oh, he's going to try and mangonel down some of those cav archers. It looks like Chris hasn't noticed yet. Oh, is he going to split up and get out of range? All right. Oop. He's gonna run backwards so that the mangonel fires over here, and then he's gonna push forward so that the shot misses. That's great. Second battering ram coming in. He's putting on pressure because he knows he's on a clock, right? He can't win in the late game, and the real test of time right now is, can DauT survive? Can the Koreans survive this early rush from the Huns? The Huns have the natural advantage, but their time is running out. Look who's coming up to the Imperial Age. He thinks this is Black Forest. I love it. This is great. DauT here going up to Imp 30 minutes in. Exceptional. War Wagon's coming out here. He's got the fletching, he's got the mangonels, he has everything he needs to defend, but he's severely outnumbered. With 2 castles, he might be able to do this. One of the reasons why he boomed so hard here instead of going for War Wagons super duper early, you know, he delayed him a bit, is because War Wagons cost so much, you need a huge economy for it. Gonna pull some villagers offline to go try and shank this battering ram. Battering ram, of course, has no melee armor, so the villagers are quite effective against it. The town center will not be able to do anything to it at all. And it's gonna be a tricky fight. I think, oh my, if DauT can hold this line, then this is the counter to Huns, guys. We figured it out. And he might be able to hold this line, as these guys are, they're too tanky. You know, fuck that shit, he's too tanky. And it looks like Chris is gonna have to pull out. He's gonna delete this incredibly greedy forward archer range. and he's gonna have to get out of here, as he can't take on these guys despite having like 3-4 times the numbers, as they're too strong. They're too bulky. The 3 pierce armor is ridiculous. They're like if skirmishers actually had offensive prowess. However, they do cost 1 million. Generally speaking, though, like I've mentioned before, this won't usually work unless your map is set up in a way that it's quite easy to wall and your opponent doesn't really see it coming. Generally, when you pick Koreans on Arabia, your map won't be this easy to wall, and this won't generally work out. But the stars aligned in this case. I mean, you know, Chris had to go for cavalry archers. He was already, you know, teched in that line. He already had the double archer range. He needed to fully boom to be able to keep up with this stone wall. And he was like super duper surprised, but now what's he gonna do? The War Wagon's coming out here. He's fully boomed. DauT's having his revenge. Look at these monsters. Oh my god, you see the double stable coming out again because Chris is like, shit, I need to tech into something else. This is not working. Chris was banking on being able to do enough damage here, but with the mangonels and the War Wagons, it just goes to show. Sometimes a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking is exactly what you need to go clinch a victory here. This is ridiculous. I absolutely love it. I mean, really, in a straight-up fight, there's really nothing Chris can do here. He can't take this fight. He's gonna need, like, skirmishers. He's gonna need, like, hussars. I mean, let's take a look from his perspective. He's pretty even on population, but his units suck in comparison. They, you know, this pop is not created equal in this case, as, wow, Bracer already here from DauT, the Red Koreans as well. I mean, this population isn't created equal. The stats on these war wagons are disgusting, and he's just moving in. He's like, screw this, man. He has castles in his own base, and he knows that Chris can't afford to go pull out and harass him. I mean, in order to go try and run into his economy, and Chris is at least trying to do it, right? Trying to send in a couple cavalry units, the light cavalry, to go raid that eco. He's gonna have to run through that castle and get mowed down. Oh, heavy cavalry archer here from Chris. He has really no choice. He's up to Imp 2. He's doing a great job keeping up and adapting in this case, but the damage has been done. The person dictating the pace of these games often comes out, and the person who has to play reactively tends to get screwed. As really, DauT's just one step ahead in this case. He kind of has to tech into heavy cavalry archers. Chris does, because he already has so many cavalry archers, and it's really hard for him to tech into something else. I mean, he is throwing in hussars, as he absolutely has to do, but he might as well at least upgrade his heavy cavalry archers, as they're not terrible in this case. Light cavalry are a good choice here. Light cavalry quite good against the war wagons, but he doesn't have enough, and he has no upgrades. You know, like, until you get to that super duper late game, which becomes like all about counters, in the early game, if you like are, you know, mind gaming your opponent and you have the right units, it's really hard to transition to counters, man. If your opponent has a million knights, it's tough to transition to something like pikemen, and in this case, it's tough for, you know, Chris really doesn't have the economy here to go for something like elite skirmishers, to go for, you know, halberdiers, to go for hussars, to go for knights. He doesn't have the money for it, and he's getting raided so hard here by DauT. All of the cap rams coming out here, and this is also a good decision, as the cap rams will be able to put down a lot of pressure. One of the weaknesses here is that, you know, again, DauT is so heavily teched into war wagons. He's up to elite right now. He's full upgrades, actually. He's so heavily teched into these that he doesn't have any other types of units, no melee units, so taking out those rams, he has to stab them with villagers. So that means that the rams will be able to do a lot of damage, but these villagers, I mean, with no backup here, the villagers will actually be able to take out these little blobs of shredded wheat, shank them to death, slowly but steadily. Forward castle coming out here. Wow. Gonna zone Chris off this gold mine. And look, these war wagons, they just will not die. Check this out, guys. It's insane, these units. This guy's units are crazy. My cav archers can't do anything against a war wagon like that. Look at this. They're barely even taking damage. There are almost no losses here on the side of Chris. And he's just, I mean, on the side of DauT. And he's just, wow, making short work of this. Technology's coming out here from Chris. Desperate last attempt. He's trying to mass these guys up, but he can't. He's losing so much ground. His eco is getting so very weak. I mean, one other advantage that he has, it's a lot easier for him to mass up an army than it is for DauT 2, is DauT's units cost way more. He can't let this castle go up. If this castle goes up, it is GG. Has this gold mine, very, very essential. He also needs this town center. It's way too much map control, but he can't stop that castle from going up. He's trying his best, but the war wagons are too OP. Oh, God, the castle, 96%. He calls GG, but the castle at 96%. He's like, JK, it's not GG at all. I'm still in this. Oh, but here comes some more villagers here from DauT, so this castle will go up eventually. And with it, there goes Chris's hopes and dreams. Koreans, the incredibly situational counter to Huns. Sometimes, man, if you put your mind to it and you do it right, and you really, really analyze the situation, playing standard isn't always the solution. And that's what keeps Age of Empires 2 so interesting after all these years, is that while the meta, I mean, this game is ancient, right? I mean, while the metagame is pretty stagnant, there are some rare situations like this where picking the Koreans into Huns is not actually completely suicidal. When your map is easy enough to wall like this and you play it this well, this is actually something that's incredibly hard for the Hun player to deal with. The main weakness of the Huns is that they're such a binary, aggressive civ. Like, really, their only late game is, like, mass paladins, and that's only really good in team games. In 1v1s, it can be too easy to counter. I mean, even in team games, like in the super-duper late-game dealio, you gotta kind of close out the game. The Huns have a late game, but it's very, very binary and easy to deal with, so when you're stuck with the archer line, like Chris was shoehorned into, then these elite war wagons are ridiculous, and I love to see this. I love to see this. I've been trying to make a lot of these strategies work on my own stream, but, you know, I feel like it's much better to see someone like DauT actually execute it perfectly. And, yeah, we got a new metagame, guys. The Koreans, Tier 1, S-Tier, Arabia Civ. You heard it here first. The answer is sometimes. And again, you know, thank you so much, Cision, and the rest of the AOC box team for making this possible. Alright, let's go check out the achievements, guys. That was a pretty awesome game, if I do say so myself. This is why I love Age of Empires 2, because stuff like this is still possible. You can have no balance updates in, you know, over a decade, and you can still do interesting things like these. Now, granted, this game was from, you know, 2005, so it's actually quite old. But this stuff still can happen, and a lot of the replays that I have are from anywhere from 2002 to 2011. So, you know, every now and then, sometimes in the right situation, innovation is required, and being able to strictly execute a build order won't always work, as sometimes a curveball can actually work. One of the worst Arabia civs, or at least considered to be one of the worst, the Koreans, versus definitely one of the better ones out there, the Huns. Definitely one of the top tier civs. And yet, when you take a look at this, largest army of 38 versus 38, well, the game seems even, but look at the units killed versus units lost. You want value? Talk about efficiency. War wagons are insane. They're slow. They're not very good against many types of units, but man, are they good against cavalry archers. And in an Arabia map where it's easy enough to wall up and you're against the Huns, they can be insane. By the time Chris was able to finally tech into light cavalry and other sort of counter units, it was too late. And war wagons are, like, really good in a 1v1 Arabia sense when you really think about it, because, like, in 1v1 Arabia, you know, most players will go for, like, crossbowmen in the Castle Age, or in this case, if you're the Huns, you'll go for cav archers. So war wagons definitely destroy those, and people will throw in mangonels all the time, of course, too, but mangonels don't even do that much to war wagons. They're too tanky. So, yeah, it can definitely pay off here. Definitely pay off. Another reason why this strategy is super duper gimmicky is because you create the armies so slowly, but man, with enough stone walls, your castle's positioned correctly, effective enough defense, the surprise factor, it can work. Man. Alright, so I hope you guys really enjoyed watching this match as much as I did. It was a pleasure. I look forward to bringing you guys more of these. Please do leave me your feedback, as this is a new idea of mine that I had recently, and I want to know what you guys think. It is part of my way of trying to keep things fresh. As, you know, we've seen basically every strategy done by myself and the pros, you know, a million times, that I've been looking around for something interesting that we haven't seen before, and it's possible that some of these replays have been casted before by other Age of Empires 2 commentators like Zero Empires and Mr. Danish, but most of these haven't, and yeah, I look forward to going through the rest of this list. There's a lot of really fun ones on the way, and man, I definitely enjoy seeing some war wagons. So let me know what you guys think of the format, if this is a series that interests you. Tell me what you like about it. I always love to hear that type of thing. Your feedback, very, very valuable, and I look forward to bringing you guys a couple more of these. I'll also be bringing a couple more, like, build order focused videos and tutorials for you guys in future, as that's been a hotly suggested topic, so that's something that I will also do. So yeah, I appreciate your support as always. If you enjoyed watching this video, you know, please do leave me a like rating, as it does help out quite a bit, and if you enjoyed watching this video, then you'll probably like the rest of the stuff on my YouTube channel. I have plenty of other Age of Empires 2 videos there, as well as videos of other games. If you like this one, you'll probably like those as well. I also do live stream regularly, so, you know, if you check the link on the screen or in the video description, I'd love to have you at my weekly Twitch TV live streams. Great place to go hang out, chit-chat, and play some games with me. Alright guys, I'll see you all next time in the next episode of Break the Meta, or in whatever Age of Empires 2 video I do next. Yep. GG, well played. Was a pleasure, guys. War Wagons, OP.